go.
Okay, guys, welcome back. Talking Blue. We haven't filmed in a little bit, but big news for the Giants. Joe Shane talks on the press conference today. We're very close. Only a few weeks left to the draft. We're really excited. A lot of content coming out soon for the draft. And some major news circulated today. Um, Obviously Joe Shane talked a lot about the quarterback. That seems what everyone wants to know. Is Daniel Jones the guy for the future? What are we looking to do? You have a top six pick this year. You could get a quarterback. And there's a lot of rumors, trade back, trade forward. We've heard a lot about it. But Joe Shane comes out with the news that he's very comfortable with running with DJ, Drew Lock, and Tommy Cutlets, which I think to me that all sounds good, unless Daniel Jones goes back to last year, Daniel Jones, and 2 years ago, Daniel Jones. Then that could be a problem. I mean, that 1 year we made the playoffs, if Daniel Jones can play like that, Matt, I think you could agree that would be ideal situation for the quarterback room.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. If we could definitely have him play like how he did in 2022-23, that would be great for our quarterback room. And especially now that we have an offensive line that's going to give him more than just half a second to throw the ball, I think he'll actually be able to prove why he got that $40 million contract, even though I think it's a bit much for him. He'll prove that he's not a bad quarterback.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, and Joe Shane touched on it. We have a lot of pieces to fill, and you can't deny that. Running back, receiver, cornerback, safety, our whole secondary, really, our receiver core / tight end, because we don't know what's going on with Darren Waller, our running back room, our line still has some pieces. I mean, the only thing I could confidently say is our linebacker crew and an outside linebacker edge rusher is good. We still need some interior D linemen, of course. We only have Dexter Lawrence, really Jordan Riley, still coming into his own, Nacho, whatever. He's all right. So they have pieces to fill, and this seems like a draft class and a good opportunity with the picks the Giants have to really fill their roster, Matt. And I was just wondering, I was reading something today, and we commented on Twitter. Go check us out, Talking Blue Twitter. We post content a decent amount, comment on stuff. And someone was like saying LOL, like Giants cornerback room. It was Mills, Pinnock, and then you had McLeod, Flott, and Deonte Banks. Now I was reading it. I commented, I don't think this is a joke. That's a cornerback room. I don't know. I think that's a really good cornerback room. I understand Mills / Belton / Isaiah Simmons. You don't know what's going to happen with that position, but not enough people. Pinnock's not getting hyped up because he played next to Xavier McKinney. Pinnock was elite last year. I don't care what people say. 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions, 85 tackles. That's some good stats. That's some really good stats. A guy that literally came out of nowhere. You check his stats. Nothing there until this season. Deonte Banks. He had to go against the #1 receiver in the league every single. He went against Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, and CeeDee Lamb in the first few weeks of the season, and he played good games. McLeod came out of nowhere. We posted a video on him. It got over 2,000, or Twitter on him got over 2,000 views. He had 4 turnovers forced this year on limited playing time. That's very impressive. They built in at 3 in one game. That's also impressive. Another guy in our cornerback room. And Cordell Flott showed that he could be a really solid corner for us. I mean, that guy, LSU pick, we liked when we picked him, hadn't played much, and he came out and played, man. I don't know what you think about that, but to me, this secondary room isn't as bad as people are making out to be, Matt.
Yeah, you're right. It's really nowhere nearly as bad as people say it is. A lot of people look at it and think it's a joke. It's really not as bad as people think it is. I know we lost McKinney. That's a big blow. We don't know what's going to
Yeah,
happen with Adoree Jackson yet. But what if you watched every Giants game last year and like paid close attention to the defense, the secondary was a huge part of it. But
yeah.
Deonte Banks couldn't have had much of a better rookie season. Jason Pinnock, like we were just talking about, has been really good. Dane Belton, I've been very high on him. If you guys have been watching like for a while, like you'll know I'm
Matt's a
very
big
high on
fan.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think another fair point I saw was number 1, when your offense is putting up that little points, you can't win football games. Doesn't matter what kind of defense you have out there. Secondly, we also look at this. We had a Brian Burns. I mean, last year the pass rush was too inconsistent. If we have a pass rush on a quarterback every single play, we're going after him. Our secondary, it doesn't need to be as good. I like to look at the Philadelphia Eagles, Reed Blankenship. He's not an elite safety. We've burnt him. He's not that good of a safety. But he does a nice job out there because that Philly pass rush gets after the quarterback every play. That Philly pass rush is one of the best in the league last year. And if we could replicate that, have a pass rush that good, then yeah, our secondary doesn't have to be that elite. We have a lot of young guys. I like that Darnay Holmes signing. I know inconsistent he's played, but he's forced turnovers, and that's how you win football games. Turnovers. That's why I like McLeod and Flott. They made some big plays. Yeah, the season we won 6 games. I mean, how many big plays could you make? But they made the big plays. McLeod, he came out of nowhere and he was a special team star making plays. He gets thrown on at corner. He had an interception, that big forced fumble against AJ Brown in the red zone last home game when Giants killed Philly. Some big plays, Matt, and I'm happy with it. Next, I want to ask you, Matt. I want you to go for the first 3 rounds of the draft, and you tell me if you had all control of it, if you were Joe Shane, who are the first 3 picks for you?
All right. So start at round one. I think I've been kind of vocal about this on the podcast. I know it's been a little while since we filmed. Like we've taken a little break, but I think first round, 6th overall, we take Malik Neighbors. I think he'd be a very good fit. He reminds me of Stephon Diggs, and I
Yeah,
think bringing in a receiver like him could really move up the offense, improve a lot. But if Marvin Harrison's on the board, I don't care who else is there. That's who we got to take. So take a receiver first round. I think Neighbors or Marvin Harrison would be good. I don't think Marvin Harrison's going to fall to us, but let's go with Malik Neighbors here. I think that's the realistic option, and I think that would be a very good fit. And round two, we've been talking about this a little bit. I was texting you about this the other day. I want us to take a corner, and I think we should go after the Rutgers defensive back, Max Melton. He's been really good, and I think he'd be a really good cornerback number 2 next to Deontay Banks, assuming Adoree Jackson is walks after the season. Then third round, 70th overall. This is all assuming like the no trades are made. I would take Blake Corum if he's available. I think, well, he's the best running back in the draft class, and I think bringing him in would be huge, especially for the fact that we lost Saquon, unfortunately, and he went to Philadelphia. But I think Blake Corum coming in as our running back 1 next year would really um, provide a huge spark to the offense. And I think if we get Neighbors and Blake Corum, I think our offense could be a lot better than people are going to think it's going to be. What do you think about that, Luke?
yeah, yeah. And I'll go next. I like the
Yeah.
first pick. I like Neighbors. Here's my one problem when you're evaluating film on receiver. The NFL and college is a big difference. Against college, you play a lot of bummy schools to put it that way. I mean, when a guy's putting up 5 touchdowns, he's having 200 yards against a horrible college. What does it mean? To the NFL, everyone's professional. Everyone's a top elite player from their respective colleges. So I think that means something a little bit more. And what I looked at in Marvin Harrison's film, I don't see that big elite plays, that explosiveness, to put it that way, Neighbors. I mean, Neighbors could take a 5 yard hitch and run 70 yards, no problem. I don't see that as much from Harrison. When I watch Odunze, I see the same thing. That 5 yard ability to run 70 yards. I really like that of those 2 guys. So I would say Neighbors or Odunze is my first round pick alongside Matt. Receiver has to be first, unless, of course, you trade back, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
Next, in the second round, this is coming out of nowhere. We did bring him in for a top 30 visit. Kool-Aid McKinstry. I'm a big Bama fan. He was a top corner. He's and a lot of people's draft board. He's going to be the 5th corner off the board. I think it's very unrealistic for all 5 to go in the first round. So there's going to be, I think, either him or Melton has to be. Obviously, Terrion Arnold and Mitchell from Toledo. Those guys are probably going to be the top 2 corners to off the board. I mean, Kool-Aid we're going to be there. Brian Dable, he loves the Alabama guys, and former Alabama coach. I could see them going that second round. A little sleeper there. And then third round, I don't know if he'll be available. Maybe one of those situations you have to trade up in the second, give up a few other picks. Trey Benson, FSU running back. I mean, he's one of the best running backs in the class. Maybe the best. I mean, the way he could run at his size. And one of my favorite features for him, one of my favorite games, I watch him play FSU in the ACC championship. They needed that win to keep their season going. Unfortunately, they didn't get in the playoffs, but that was their hope. He carried them. I mean, they had no quarterback back there. He carried them. He's a tank. He's a beast. I would love to have him on the team to bring us that gritty, big edge. And just another thing interesting, Matt, I don't know if you saw this on Twitter, but Malik Neighbors is almost the same size as OBJ. It's just something interesting. He kind of looks like him when you see him run with the ball.
Yeah. I've watched this film. I think he could be like OBJ 2.0. Okay, that's kind of a stretch, but like we take him first overall. We took Beckham in the
Yeah,
first
top
round
pick. Yeah,
10 years
top pick.
ago. Both went to
LSU
LSU.
receiver. Yeah.
What could be different?
Yeah. And I think this draft, we saw what Bill Belichick said. He loved to take over the Giants. This draft is very important because last year, and we won 6 games this year, it didn't seem like we had that many holes, and that we only won 6 games. This year, I feel like there's just too many holes. So I don't know what Joe Shane has to do. I feel like he's gonna have to make some trades, draft related or not. He's gonna have to do something because right now our running back room is a perfect example. Devin Singletary, Eric Gray. I don't think they're gonna cut it. I really don't. And it gets a little nerve wracking. The Joe Shane and Brian Dable came here to win playoff games. They came here to win them, not just make the playoffs, win playoff games. And if they can't get the job done, we've talked about it enough. This is the New York market. You're getting fired. And I don't know how much more the owners will see if they don't do well in the draft this year. So it's a really important draft for the Giants. I think one of the more important ones we've had coming off 2 years ago making the playoffs. So we'll have to see. I mean, a lot of interesting things. And Matt, another question: is there any trade back scenarios, trade up, any mock of those you've seen that you've really been interested in?
Um, there isn't really one that I'm like super interested in, but like let's talk about trading down a little bit. I think we only trade down if we like I'll talk about trading up in a little bit. I might have talked about this a little bit on like a previous episode, but
Yeah,
I'll talk about trading back real quickly. Talk about the Vikings. They have 2 first-round picks this year. Let's say they really want a quarterback, which is like a hot rumor buzzing around the league that they're gonna trade up and get a quarterback 6th overall. And I mean, like in the first round of the draft, my bad, with one of those picks, they might want to trade up. And if there's no guy we're interested in available, you know what? I would do it. I would trade back, get 2 first-round picks. What could go wrong? And also, I don't want us to trade up. I got to be honest with you. A lot
yeah,
of
I
people
agree.
say, a lot of people are saying we should trade up for Caleb Williams. I don't think that would be the right move to make. I don't dislike Caleb Williams by any means, but I've said this before on the podcast. I just don't think he'd be the right fit for New York. I just don't think he'd be able to handle the pressure. You saw him crying after the loss versus Washington. I just don't think he'd be able to handle the pressure in New York because, like we said, it's not like playing for I don't know, some team in Jacksonville or like some team in Arkansas, like somewhere around there. Um, New York is the biggest market in all of sports, and it's hard to play there. Also, like when
Yeah.
someone's like Caleb Williams is like a generational talent. This is also kind of a different sport. The only way I'd ever trade up first overall is if you can get like a Connor Bedard type prospect. If there's any hockey fan watching this, you know what I'm talking about. Can't you agree with me, Luke?
Yeah, that's a great point there. When you're making a trade up, you're pretty much throwing a helm. You're running a trick play. You're taking a big gamble, and you have to know that pays up because when you trade up, you're giving up your future. So if the Giants this year traded up for Caleb Williams, JJ McCarthy, Drake May, etc., they are giving up their future for the next few years. They will give up so many picks for the next few years. So when you give up all that, is it really going to be worth it? What if he ends up just being a type of quarterback? If he doesn't perform well, Joe Shane and Brian Dable, they're fired. They're done. And so I think that's a lot. And one of the mock drafts I saw, and we talked about it a little bit, Matt, Justin Pugh proposed one. I thought it was absolutely excellent. The mock trade was to trade back with the 49ers to get grab Ayuk,
I
and
saw
then
that.
we would trade back and potentially get a cornerback first round. You get a top receiver rather than gambling, obviously, because you don't know how receivers are going to turn out in the draft. A top corner in the draft, have 2 top corners, and then you also get a second or third where you could select a running back, tight end, whatever they're looking to go in that direction. But to me, that pick's a dream. You're getting a receiver, plus you get a corner, get a lineman. You could get there's so many more options. You're gonna have 2 first round. You're gonna have only 1 first round pick, but one of the top receivers in the league, one of the best route runners in the league. I mean, Matt, that seems like the biggest idea of bringing Brandon Ayuk to the city. I would love to see that.
Yeah, I saw that mock trade. That's definitely something I would consider doing. It depends, like I've been saying, if there's no one good available, then honestly, why not? I would do it. It would help our future out. We'd bring in an already established wide receiver. Then second round. We could have 2 second round picks. We could get like a corner with one of them, maybe a running back or another guy I'd be interested in possibly bringing in, Devontae Walker, wide receiver out of UNC. I think he'd be a very good addition as well. If we could bring in, I've said this before, I want us to bring in 2 wide receiver ones, which might sound kind of crazy. It's just I feel like we're gonna need as much firepower possible if we're gonna want to have like a very competent offense.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping like we and like Blake Corum. So I know he's a running back, but what I hope we do, we're gonna talk a little bit about this. I want us to like trade a few draft picks, get a couple of picks in return. So like we can have extra picks to like get more guys in the draft. We'll talk about this soon. Like we'll probably make a video very soon, like about a few ways the Giants can nail the draft. And another thing
Yeah,
is with
we could drop a full 7 round mock draft, maybe like a week before the draft. We know everything's happening. If any trades happen before the draft, we'll be dropping that. Matt, continue.
yeah. So another thing with taking a quarterback 6 overall, I don't think it's a horrible idea, but honestly, I think what would be best is if we go wide receiver for sixth overall. Um,
Yeah.
Another thing is, I swear, if we take, I no hate for JJ McCarthy at all. I don't dislike him in any way possible, but I'm just gonna say right now, if we take him sixth overall, I'm gonna be extremely pissed off because if we then like what the hell are we doing if we take some guy like I don't think he's bad by any means. I just don't think he's worthy of being a first round pick. And I just think that would be a waste of a top 10 pick. Like you don't spend a top 10 pick on someone like that's not worthy of being in the first round in my book. Well, okay, that's kind of common
Yeah.
sense, but I just think it would be a really bad idea. What do you
Yeah.
think of that, Luke?
Yeah. I'm not a big JJ McCarthy fan overall. I watch his film and I say, eh. I mean, his receivers make some great plays. I, I just don't think he's worth the 6 round pick. And I think he's one of those guys. I like his style, pocket passer, but playing behind the New York Giants O line, which is very, very shaky, as we know. I don't know how much he lasts back there. I think we're at this era now in the NFL that if a quarterback's not insanely athletic, he's not going to make it. I mean, you even look DJ. Look how what an athlete is. He's one of the fastest quarterbacks in the league, and he can't handle that the pass rush because the New York Giants O line just is not competent enough. And another thing I did want to touch on though, Darius Slayton has not showed up for voluntary workouts, asking for an extension. He's looking for he's looking for supposedly extension. Obviously, his contract ends. He's averaging 6 million a year right now over 2 years. His contract's ending now, and it is interesting, Matt, because we look at him. He's never had over 800 yards. He's been our leading receiver 4 out of 5 years now, but I don't think he qualifies as receiver one. Is he a solid receiver? Yes. Do I think we should extend him? Yes. But if this man's asking for receiver one money, I don't know. I wouldn't pay him receiver one money. Matt, I don't know how you feel about that.
I wouldn't pay him that money either. I don't dislike Slayton by any means. I like him. I think he's a very good receiver. I mean, like for like he's not like necessarily like your typical wide receiver one, but for what we've had, he's been a good wide receiver one. I'm not even gonna lie. But he's not worthy of like wide receiver one money. Like he shouldn't be making like 18, 19 million a year. That would be a ridiculous overpay. And I don't want us to go back to the Dave Gettleman era where we're just gonna, for example, I'm not saying we're gonna
Yeah.
do this, but I don't want us to do what we did with Kenny Galladay. I thought that was and where we gave him a 4 year, $72 million deal, gets 19 million a year. And at the time I liked it. I just thought 19 million was a bit much. I would have done like 13 or 14 million, if you know what I mean. But yeah.
Yeah. I don't think Darius Slayton is worth more than I'd say max is 9. I think he's really at that 7 to 8 range. If he's looking for more money, I mean, I wouldn't mind giving him another 2 year, 12 million. I don't think he's looking for that. But if we gave him like 2 years, 15 million, I think that's a really fair deal for both sides. A cheaper deal, a guy that pretty much guarantees to get over 700 yards every year. The one year he didn't, he was hurt. That was the year. That was the Joe Judge final year. So he's pretty much guaranteed to do that. A great deep threat, has some touchdown ability, and I think that's fair. I'd want to keep him because he's a solid receiver and he's only a guy that's been consistent. And I'd like to see him continue to develop. I mean, a solid little line this year and good quarterback play. Maybe he could have an 1,000 yard season. You know, So I wouldn't mind waiting either. You wait till after the season, but then you got to pay him that price. So it's kind of a gamble. So I think if you could get him for that anywhere between 7 and 9, Matt, I feel like it's fair for both sides. Anything more, I'd start to maybe take the risk of waiting till the off season.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I just don't think he's worthy of the wide receiver one money. I think with a good quarterback play, which also involves a good offensive line, I think the offensive line is gonna be better this year. I thought we did some good stuff there. We've built depth and we got some good pieces. Um, I- Whoever our quarterback is, whether it's Daniel Jones, whether it's I don't know Tommy DeVito, or say we take a quarterback in the first round, like sixth overall. Let's say we take Drake May, Jaden Daniels. Okay, I'm just naming guys at this point. Caleb Williams, JJ McCarthy. They will have time to throw the ball, and that's huge because we've not had that for a while. Last year, I'm not talking about 2023-24. I'm talking about 2022-23. Um, we had time to throw the ball. Daniel Jones had time to throw the ball. I don't think I mean, our offensive line
Yeah.
wasn't great, but it got the job done. I'll say that.
He was also able to use his legs, also something interesting.
Yes.
You know, and one last thing before we start to wrap it up, one last thing I was finding interesting talking about receiver money. Alan Lazard, very similar numbers, obviously not last year, but to Darius Slayton. That kind of like wasn't a receiver one situation, maybe not a receiver one talent. He got 4 years, $44 million. They paid him $11 million, and he was absolutely horrendous last year.
Yeah.
I don't think you want to do that with Slayton. I don't think Slayton deserves 11 million. I think again it should be under 10 million, unless he's one of those receivers that's a game changer. I don't think he's a game changer.
He's
I
not.
think he would have proven that, but in the first 5 years of him being here, he's made some big plays, but the big plays aren't consistent, Matt. So that's just something interesting to say. And to start to wrap things up, Matt, I know we want to start pumping out draft content. Make sure to go check out our Twitter. I know we gained some new followers recently. Been getting a lot of comments on stuff. We'd love to comment on that. Our TikTok, we're gonna make a few more draft videos on certain prospects. We've made a few so far, and then YouTube Shorts, check them out too. We'll make a few more on those, and and just keep on following and liking everything.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, share this video with a few friends. Yeah, we'll see you guys later. Let's go, Giants.
Go Big Blue.